Good morning everyone, and it's time for our Wednesday morning back care class. So this is where we're going to work on that stiffness and that tight achy feeling in the back and really looking after our spines to make them lovely and healthy. So I know there's a few of you who join in with this class who do have some specific issues with your spine, so please do listen out carefully for any modifications that I might make for you, and listen to your bodies. So they're going to tell you usually if something's not right. So we want to work gently and effectively. So by tuning in and feeling what's happening in the body, that allows us to really move with effect so that we get maximum benefit to the body with whatever we're doing. Okay, so as always, I have to say that you are taking part in this class at your own risk, but I am aiming to keep you all safe and healthy while we are working. So here we got you. Morning George, lovely to hear from you. Hope you're okay. So, safe, clear working area. Make sure you've got some space, no trip hazards, and we are going to need some cushioning today. So what I will say is, if you haven't got a block, a cushion for your head. Also, because we're going to be lying on the side, if you experience discomfort in the hip, so it's actually a bone, usually at the top of the thigh, called the greater trochanter, that sticks out, sticks into the floor and can feel really quite uncomfortable when you're lying on it. So if you need an extra cushion for that, please do grab that. And then, if any of you do have a small ball at home, so particularly if you've got diastasis, hernia or a prolapse, please do grab that or another cushion, so something that you can squeeze whilst you're working. So you can, if you don't have any of those, you can still add that in if you wish to. It will be of extra benefit, but it's not necessary, okay, if you haven't got one of those conditions. So a couple of cushions and a block, and make sure you've got your nice, safe, clear working area. So I'll give you a moment or two to grab those. And then we can make a start. So hopefully those things aren't too far away. You can grab them nice and easily. Okay. So if we're ready to start, we're going to work through the body today, top to toe, nice and safely, but very much with an emphasis on feeling what the back's doing, feeling what the core is doing, where we are activating to make movement happen. So this most definitely isn't about forcing your body through a range of movements. It's about mobilising gently and getting that feedback from the body as to what you can feel happen, so that we get maximum benefit in a safe and effective way. Okay, so we're going to start with our posture and setting up a really good foundation, because there's no point exercising if we haven't got a good foundation. It all starts with the feet when we're in standing. Okay, so our feet are our anchor point from which we are working. So let's just check that we have got our heels directly underneath our hip bones. Your toes are level and your feet are parallel. Okay, I know for some of you that doesn't feel right, it feels a little bit alien, but try and bear with it. It will gradually become more normal for you. We just need to re-educate some muscles around the hips. So finding that you've got the pressure into the centre of your heel, and allow the toes to spread out forwards. Okay, so I want you to just feel what that's like with the heel. Let's roll the heel inwards, press into the inside of the heel. Now roll out, press into the outside of the heel. Your whole foot's probably moving here. We're mobilising from the ankle. So let's roll in again and roll out again. Instead of focusing on the feet, I would like you to focus on what you feel in your knees. So let's do that again. Feel what happens to the knees as you roll inwards. Can you feel different areas of tension being created? And then as you roll out, feel how that changes. So stopping in the middle, roll rolling in. Feel how that is. Roll to the middle. Roll to the outside. And then roll back to the middle. Now we're going to continue that going, but now I'd like you to focus on what you feel in your hips as we do that. So rolling inwards, feel how different muscles switch on in the hips as you roll in to the centre and roll out. So it might be very subtle. I want you to just see if you can notice those changes. Rolling in to the centre and rolling out. Let's come back to centre, and hopefully in the middle of your heel and with the toes spread out, you shouldn't really feel that any one muscle group is much more switched on than the others, okay, which is what is happening if we're not in good alignment. So we've set up that nice foundation now. Let's think about lengthening through the legs. So we're anchored into the floor, we're going to pull away from the floor and feel that your kneecaps are still soft. We've not jammed them back. Soften those knees. And let's work on finding neutral with the pelvis. So if you just take your hands onto the crest of your hips and then wrap the fingers around the front of the hip bones and your thumb just into the back here. Okay, and just feel how that's sitting already. Does it feel like it's sat level, or do you feel a little bit tilted that way? Or maybe you feel a little bit tilted, the front of the hips feel higher. Maybe you're in a little bit of a sway back at the minute. So what we're going to do is think about stacking everything. Ankles, hips, shoulders. So if you are someone who at the studio, I'm always getting you to bring your shoulders forward and you feel like you're leaning forwards. That's what you're going to do right now. So that should even out the pressure into your feet. So if you're a bit sway back, you'll feel like you're really stood in your heels and there won't be much pressure into your toes. So you'll know when you stood up straight, when that pressure feels even through the feet. Okay, and then if you're a little bit arched, if you're somebody who tends to arch the back a little bit and you feel the hip bones are dipped down at the front, let's see if we can take a breath out and just bring them up, using your abdominal muscles rather than your glutes. Okay, so let's find that nice level. Now, think about keeping the hips down. Can you lengthen the body? Can you breathe in to what feels like the length of the body? Breathe into the height of the body. Grow taller. And exhale. Can you hold that length? Can you feel taller? And we want to make that feeling travel up the neck as well. So we want to lift the base of the skull softly. So if you imagine the tips of your ears gently tilting up towards the ceiling, chin is level and the chin is back. Relax the arms down. Let's widen the shoulders. Now, we're just going to focus into our breath with some arm floats. Let's bring the arms up, lead with the little finger, inhale. And exhale. Breath in. And breath out. And can you notice any subtle changes in the pressure in your feet as you do this? Are you able to maintain that posture? Let's do 2 more. Inhale, focus on that breath. Is it a big breath in? Are you getting it expanding all the way around into the back as well? Last one, big breath in for me. And exhale. Okay, we're going to work a little bit on the head now. So I'm going to turn to face forwards. I'm going to take the arms slightly out to the side. Now fix your eyes on something directly in front of you. And I'd like you to keep the head still, turn the body. So allow the feet to move, allow everything to rotate. Just keep the head fixed. And this is a great exercise if you get a stiff neck or if you do suffer with neck conditions, this is a lovely way of mobilising the spine in the neck, so the cervical spine, without putting it under undue tension. So sometimes when we focus on moving the head, that can create a lot of tension in the neck. And back to centre, and now let's just see how the head moves without forcing it. How far round does the head go? It should feel a little bit more like it's just floating round. Feel a little bit freer and easier. And back to centre. Right, from there we are going to go into a side stretch. I'd like you to take one arm up, focus on the shoulder staying down. If that's not available, arm across the chest. Let's lift out of the hips and reach. I'd like you to reach out of the hips and come back down. Now we're going to do the same side, and I want you to focus on what you feel here on this side. So let's lift out, let's grow taller, use that breath. And just practice breathing into the height, into the length of the body. So what are you feeling on this side as you come up and over? Are you feeling that your ribs crunch into the body, or are you feeling length and a bit of a contraction? So if you're feeling that crunch down, I'd like you to explore the feeling of just lifting the ribs away from the hips and keeping that height as you stretch over. So let's do that 2 more times and see if we can maintain that feeling of height and length in the body. We'll do one more. Lift and stretch over. Okay, let's take that to the other side, and we're just going to see how that feels and if it feels any different. So the shoulder stays down. We lengthen the body, grow taller out of the hips and stretch over. So again, we're really focusing on this side here. Most often in this move, I think people focus on this side because that's where you get more feedback. You feel the length and the stretch. But to get a really effective stretch that's good for the spine and good for your core, we need to maintain that height. So let's take that stretch over. Are you feeling that pinch, or are you feeling some length and a contraction? So again, just see, can you maintain that height for me? Lift out of the hips, up and over, and down. One last one. And down. Okay, from there we're going to go into foot pedals with opposition arm. So I'd like you to lift the heel, swing the opposite arm forwards, but let's pull that other arm back and down. Just see how that feels through the feet to begin with. So I know it's first thing in the morning, you might not have been active yet, so the feet might be feeling a little bit stiff. So just take it gently. Where are you feeling that pressure go? Is it going down through your second and middle toe? Are you feeling a lovely stretch underneath the toes? Now just take your awareness into your lower back for me, if you would. As that knee bends, are you feeling any tightening in your lower back? It might be very subtle, but I'd like you to just feel for that happening. And if it is, maybe you'd like to take your hands onto your hips and try to keep the hips level. And that should help you to keep that back soft and make the legs do a bit more work for you. So we're going to do one more each leg. And then we're going to go into some sways. So I'm going to turn sideways for you. Now, focus on those knees staying soft and that posture staying good. So let's think about staying tall and staying in that lovely line that we've got now. Even though it's going to be moving, we want to try not to bend at the waist or at the hips. So let's just press into the toes. You don't need to go far. Feel how that changes how the back feels. And then coming into the heels, how does that change the body? So we're swaying into the toes and swaying into the heels. And each time I want you to feel for all those subtle little changes in the body. So particularly in the back and in the abdominals. One more each way. Okay, hopefully we've felt muscle activation there. That's going to help us with our balance now. So we're going to go through our little walking sequence. So our heel strikes with some rocking. So I'm going to come back a little bit so I've got space to move. So back to that foot pedal, but this time come all the way up onto the big toe without that hip lifting. Okay, let's step onto the heel. Pick it up and roll back down. Now I'd like you to focus on feeling that little moment of balance. You're on one foot, place the heel down, pick it back up and down. It's a really small step out. So it's not about reaching forwards. You're literally swapping your heel for where your toes were. Very small. Heel up, strike that heel. So this is about creating good movement patterns, but it's also about creating awareness of your balance and the need for balance when we're walking. So can you feel what happens on that supporting side for me? It should almost feel like the other leg isn't touching the floor at all. We're rolling through that foot, heel up, strike the heel and back in. Okay, we're going to add in that rocking movement now. Have you still got your neutral pelvis? So if you need to, just think about resetting. Now we're going to peel up onto the toe, strike the heel. Now let's rock forwards. Rock back, pick that foot up and down. So this is more challenging because we are transferring pressure. We are transferring our centre of gravity. So our body has to be ready for that. So we're onto the front leg and then onto the back leg. That's got to support us when we pick that front leg up and step it down. So it's about finding that connection between movement and balance. Peel, strike, rocking forwards and back and down. One more. Rock forwards, rock back and in. Okay, now we're going to go into knee lifts. Now that we've worked on our balance a little bit, lifting from the little fingers, peel up. Now keep that hip level. Notice what's happening in your back. Pick up that leg. Let's roll it back down. Changing sides, so we transfer centre of gravity. Pull up through this hip and back down. So being very aware of the lower back. So could you just notice for me, as you lift that knee, is your back really switching on the same side? What's happening there? So if it is, maybe you're lifting your hip to lift the leg, and maybe this is happening. Okay, try and keep those hips level and lift the knee. So you want to really bend that knee. Now let's take the arms out, a little bit more of a challenge. You can keep this as small as you want to. Let's peel up, lift the knee. Now can you hold it and pull the opposite elbow back? Bow and arrow. roll it back down, peel up, pull the elbow back. Now that you're having to think about more things at the same time, are you going back to old habits? Is that back switching on? See if you can focus on keeping those hips level, as well as moving that arm so the shoulders are staying square. One more. Now you can stay with that if you'd like to practice that movement. If you've got osteoporosis, osteopenia, maybe some disc issues and rotation isn't good for your spine, then you're going to stay with that too. Otherwise, we're actually going to add in a little rotation. Now keep it small. I want you to just hover that toe. Draw the elbow back. Now can you follow that elbow round without that hip coming with you? That's where it's really challenging. The hip kind of wants to follow you. So pull that elbow back, lift the knee, and you're turning the rib cage. We'll do one more each side. Keep those hips level. Turn and centre. Last one. And centre. Let's bring the arms down. Very well done. Right, we're going to go into monkey squats now. We're going to add in some arms to this. So shoulder issues, remember I would like you to work through your pain-free, your symptom-free range of movement. We are going to be doing a swimming arm. Now, for this I'm going to turn, I want you to watch my back, okay, quite literally. So, as you swim around, you're going to push your palms away. What I would like you to try and avoid is this, and pulling your shoulders up towards the back of your head, okay? We're going to maintain a long neck, and you're going to push round and feel your shoulder blades squeeze together down here instead. So just take it to where you can feel that happen and keeping that bottom rib under control too. So we'll start off with normal monkey squats and then we'll add in the arms. So I'm going to step a little bit further this way so that I've got room. Okay, feet a little bit wider than hip distance. Tall spine, we're in that good posture again. So let's hold on to that neutral pelvis. Heels and hinge forwards. Come down into that squat. Big toes are down on the floor. Exhale, push back up. Now I'd like you to inhale as we lower. Let's take a breath in here. And a strong breath out as you push back up. So those of you who we talked about at the beginning, if you push your hips forwards, I want you to really focus here as you come back up on keeping the hips over the feet. It's very tempting to come up and over push and push the hips forwards. So being aware of your abdominals, make sure they stay contracted rather than stretching out as you push your hips forwards. One more without the swimming arms and back up. So we want to warm up the shoulders for what we're going to be doing in a little while. So let's come into that hinge, down into that squat. Now turn the palms, squeeze, reach for something behind your tailbone. Reach away and come back. One more. Turn, reach away, shoulders are down, neck is long. You're looking at the floor and back and pushing back up. Let's do that again. Heels and hinge. Down into that squat. So feel those hamstrings switched on. Let's push round. Push, reach away with the fingertips. Make sure you keep that chin nodded for me. Lengthen the back of the neck. One more swim round. And coming back up. One last one. Down into your squat. Now push round. Reach away, reach away, reach away. And back. So very much focusing on where you're feeling this. If it starts to pinch up into the top of the shoulders, you're maybe going a little bit too far just for now. And then pushing back up. Okay, so before we come down onto the mats, I want us to just come back to hip distance again. Find that good posture. We're just going to work a little bit on mobility of the lower back here. So come into a little squat again, just a small one. Rest your hands onto your thighs. Shoulders wide, chin nodded. Now let's take a breath in, and as you exhale, can you lengthen the lower back? So this isn't about rounding up here. This is about starting that movement from the pelvis. It's small, it's subtle. I want you to just feel the lower back lengthen. Tuck under. Now what are you using to help with that movement? What's making that happen for you? Are you squeezing your bottom? Okay, if you can, if you are doing that, can you try to take a strong breath out and use your abdominals instead? So if you think of that curve being created by the tummy muscles pulling in and the back muscles stretching, and then we go into the opposite of that. We could even arch the other way. So you can make that a bigger movement. Tuck under, exhale, and inhale, lengthen. So we're just getting lots of nice movement here. One more. And then back to neutral. And let's take the arms forwards. Now push up, can you stretch up? Big breath in. And bring the arms down. Okay, we're going to come safely down onto the mats now. And we're going to work in 4-point position. And I want to go through the cat stretch with you and really break it down into its different components so you make it really, really effective for your back. But before we do that, have some of you got halfway down and you're getting back up again now? Sorry about that, apologies. We're just going to feel something that can happen in the back if we're not using the right muscle groups. Okay, so if we just stand tall and I want you to just move the arms, just feel that movement. So nice and free, we're not forcing that movement, we're not trying to make anything big and grand, just wherever your shoulders will go to. Now, what I'd like you to do is sometimes when I say to people relax the shoulders or pull the shoulder blades down the back, you squeeze into your armpits. So, squeeze into the armpits, pull those arms down. Now try and lift your arms in a circle. You can't go very far. Okay, so those of you who tend to do that, who when I say relax your shoulders down or draw your shoulder blades down your back, you might be jamming into what are called your lats, okay? That's going to restrict movement in your shoulder. And when you force movement against that restriction, that's when we can start to damage the shoulder joint. So, before we come down onto the mat, let's think about our shoulder blades. Right, so if it's possible for you, can you touch them? Can you find your shoulder blades for me? Okay, feel where they are. They're not out at the sides here. Okay, they're more towards your spine. So that's where I'd like you to focus your attention now. So, apologies for turning my back on you once more, but necessary. Just lift your shoulders a little. Can you feel your shoulder blades move up the back? Now just relax them down. Can you feel your shoulder blades move down? Now as you do this, are you feeling any tightening round here? Shouldn't really be anything significant from the muscle under the armpit. It's just the shoulder blades gliding up and down. So if you think of that central column, you've got the spine, you've got the shoulder blades, and it's that column that's moving up and down. Now can we just start to make them move a little bit further down the back? Can you make them move down a little bit further without pulling on the sides? So just focus on that column in the middle. Spine and shoulder blades. Will they move down without the armpits jamming down? Now if you can get that feeling, and it might take quite a bit of practice, can you now hold those shoulder blades down where you feel that they're just a little bit engaged? Now see about moving your arms. So you've got that lovely tension in the shoulder blades, but the arms are free to move through their full range of movement. And that's what we want, okay? So we're not pulling on the lats, we're pulling on some different muscles. We're pulling on the mid and low traps here to move those shoulder blades. Okay, so we're coming down onto the mats now. So, onto the knees hip distance, check your feet at that width too, and we're going to come down onto the hands as well. So, if you need to measure, it's elbows to knees, up onto the fingertips, and then replace your fingertips with the heel of your hand. Middle finger pointing forwards, and then I'd like you to push over so that you feel you're right over those wrists. Now, can we get that shoulder movement again? Pressing away from the floor. Now when we press away from the floor, it isn't about pushing up and rounding. So let's find a really good neutral where you feel the shoulders are wide. Now, can you lift the shoulder blades slightly? Can you still push them towards your hips, down that middle column of the back without pulling on the armpits? Lift up towards the jaw, just slightly, and then pull down the back. And it is a very different feeling. So if you're used to just pulling down through your armpits, this is going to take a bit of re-education here. And that's only something that you can do by getting that mindful connection to your body and feeling what's happening. One more. And then come to where the shoulders feel relaxed. Now we're going to talk about head position. In 4-point position, I often see people like this. Okay, so forward head posture like this, chin lifted, does several things. So if you want to, can you just start going through lower back curl like we did in that mini squat at the beginning? So think about moving the pelvis, tucking under and releasing. So while you're going through that, I'm going to explain what happens with that forward head posture. So forward head posture, your body has to compensate for that extra weight. So we get tension in the lower back and the upper back starts to round to try and compensate from that, to shift the centre of gravity. So we end up with a rounded upper back and the chin forwards. One of the other things that happens is that we shorten the spine at the back of the neck and it becomes compressed and damaged. To compensate for that damage, the body starts to lay down fatty deposits across the top of the shoulders, and that's when we end up with even more of a hunch and what's called a dowager's hump. So it is actually a fatty deposit across the top of the shoulders which is trying to protect your neck from damage. So we come into that position, 4-point position. I would like you to think of extending the crown of the head, so not your forehead, the crown of the head forwards. Think of the back of the neck elongating, lifting the base of the skull, and then lifting your chin away from the floor. So if you can get that feeling, let's go back to shoulders now. So can you draw those shoulders down that midline again, and then can you start to pull them a little bit further, and can you lift your collarbones away from the floor? Think of lengthening forwards, the chin is still tucked. Let's come back to neutral. Draw the shoulders back. Can you feel that tension? Can you create a little bit more tension? This is good tension, and lift away from the floor. And back to neutral. Shoulders, shoulder blades retract rather than the actual shoulders, and lifting up and back to neutral. Now let's hold that lovely lengthened position. Have you let your chin lift away from the floor? Has your bottom rib dropped? Okay, can you lift that bottom rib? Let's start some movement of the pelvis now. Let's take a breath in Exhale, can you tuck that pelvis under? Can you tilt it to feel the lower back stretch? And release. Are you keeping your shoulder blades and that part of the back still? Exhale, can you tuck under? And release. So we want that movement to happen just at the pelvis. It's only travelling up. You're feeling that tension come as far as the rib cage, bottom rib. So we're not moving from here. That part of the spine moves very easily and we spend too much of our time with the body in that position. So we want to work this lower back. Okay, now we're going to add on to this a little bit and really get the lower back moving. So if you need to, if your wrists have had enough just for a moment, let's come up and let's release those wrists. I did say we were going to do some work in sideline, but I'm not sure we're going to get there today. That might be next week instead. And round the other way. Okay, coming back to that 4-point position. So, lengthening the neck. Now we're going to swing the hips over to one side. Can you think about pulling your hip towards your bottom rib and centre? Let's go to the other side. So your shoulders are staying still. You're just pulling your hip up towards your ribs. Can you feel how that changes side to side? Are you staying over those wrists? Or have you started to sit back? So let's go one more each side. Now let's see if we can put those together into a bit of a circle. So pull the hip towards the rib. Now can you tuck that pelvis under and curl round to the other side. Push the hip out and come back down. Same way, stick the hip out so we're drawing a circle with the tailbone. So if you think of the point of your tailbone and it's drawing a circle. You might feel like yours is a bit more of an oval, that's fine. Last one in this direction. Now let's go the other way and see if we draw the same shape. Let's bring that hip towards the rib. Now tuck the pelvis under and back to the centre. Keep pushing away from the floor, keep those shoulders nice and strong. Up and round. Over to the side, up and round. One more. And back to centre. Okay, fantastic. From there, we're going to go straight into pinpoint arms and legs. Let's stay on the floor for the first few. So stabilise that shoulder, push away from the floor, slide opposite arm and leg out. And pull back in. Now did you feel your hips move? As you slid out, did you sit towards your heel? Make sure your hip stays right over your knee. I want you to try and feel those anchor points. So you're directly over the hip, directly over the wrist. Now, can we add in a lift? I'd like you to focus on using your glutes for me, your bottom muscles. Have you still got that chin lifted, neck long? Let's slide out. Now take a breath out, lift the arm, lift the leg. Down and back in. Can you feel what's helping you with that movement? Exhale, lift away. Does it feel like your lower back? Or does it feel like your glutes and maybe a little bit of hamstrings too, back of the thigh? So we want to get those glutes working. So try and really stretch that leg away for me and keep the hips level. Both hip bones pointing at the floor. We're going to do one more each side. Exhale. And in. Last one. let's sit back, shell stretch or slump stretch, whichever's more appropriate for you. If you can come into the shell stretch, we're going to rest all the way down, big breath into the back, and breath out to curl up. Okay, I think we've got a little bit of time for some side work, but rather than side lying, we're going to do a little bit of propped work. However, if that's not available to your shoulder, you're going to come all the way down onto the mat and do something different. Okay, so we are going to do mermaid. Now, if this position is not available to you, if your shoulder does not like this, I would like you to grab your cushion, your block, rest your head on it, and I'm going to get you to do stretch the toes, exhale, squeeze the knees together and just lift both legs tiny way. Flex and down. Diastasis hernia prolapse, you're going to do that with the ball between your knees and you're just going to squeeze instead of lifting. So you're going to stretch and exhale, squeeze both knees together. Don't just press the top one down, squeeze both knees in evenly. Strong breath out, engaging here. Okay, so those are different exercises working the same muscles, but here we're going to work a little bit more on shoulder stability. So I'd like you to make sure that your shoulder is directly over your elbow, palm down. And we're right on the side of the hips. So just check you have got a vertical line across those hips and your top hip isn't rolled back. So we want to be over. Now, can you push away from the floor and feel how that switches on your shoulder blade area? We're going to take the arm up, point it at the ceiling. Now, without moving your hip, are you able to lift your ribs further away from the floor? Press down through that arm. Now, can you come back to that starting position without sinking into the rib cage or shoulder? Arm down. We're coming up. Now let's push away from the floor just with the ribs. Watch for that hip wanting to travel away. Try and keep it where it is. Return to the start position, bring the arm down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Arm up. Lift the rib cage. Push away from the floor. And down. One last one. And down. Now we're going to extend that top leg. So if you're lying on the floor, you're going to do this staying lying on the floor, just one leg. Let's stretch it out, make sure it's in line with the body. We're going to take the arm forwards. Push away from the floor with this hand, stabilise that shoulder. Now let's lift the leg, lift and down. So it's a lift and tap. Now you're staying in line with the body at the moment and feeling activation right here. One more. Now, can you take that leg slightly behind you? Can you turn so that you feel your heel come towards the floor rather than being on your toe? Turn. Can you get that good grip into the glutes here? Now can you lift? Are you still landing on your heel or did you lose that turn out? Keep pushing away from the floor, keep that shoulder strong. 2 more. And bring it in. Now let's come up and we'll come over to the other side. So, last little set. Onto the forearm. Again, if you were lying down on the other side, if you were using the ball, you're going to do exactly the same as you did on the other side. So either squeeze together and a little lift off the floor, or if you've got the ball, you're going to squeeze evenly together through the tops of the knee, so just above the knee. Okay, so pressing away from the floor. Sorry, I've just got a little message popped up on my phone, just get rid of that so I can see you. That's better. Okay. Hips stacked. Pushing away from the floor, so we've already got that feeling of switching on. Let's take the arm up. Now without moving the hip, again, you're going to lift the ribs away from the floor. Let's lower back down without sinking into the shoulders or into the ribs. We're coming up, inhale. Exhale, lift the ribs. And back down. 2 more. And down, 1 more. And down. Okay, let's take that arm forwards, extend the top leg. I need to come further this way, just a little bit. Okay, so at the minute we've got that leg stretched out straight, we're resting on the toe. Try not to twist the foot. So you want a nice alignment, and we're going to lift and tap. Stay lifted out of that shoulder. Two more. Last one. Now, can you take that leg slightly further back? Can you rotate from the hip and rest towards your heel? You might not get right onto your heel, but see if you can. And lift. It should feel very different. This is a very strong glute exercise. Stay lifted. Have you forgotten about that shoulder and those ribs? Lifting away from the floor. 1 more. And coming in. Okay, very well done. We're going to turn over into 4-point position again now. So come up and over. Let's go through 1 more cat stretch each way. Big breath in. Now tuck under. Stretch that lower back. And let's come back to neutral. Glide the shoulder blades, no tightening in that armpit. Lift the chest. And recover. Now we're going to tuck the toes and come up into standing with a squat. If you'd rather do it a different way, please do. Stay safe. So tuck those toes and feel that lovely stretch just for a moment. Okay, let's push down. Now don't just stand straight up. Come into a squat position. And then pushing up. Okay, fantastic. From there, let's come back to our good standing posture. Take the arm up, stretch over. Now really reach, lengthen. Feel that stretch. Now exhale, rotate forward slightly. Take another big breath in, stretch for me. And then soften the knees and just swing round to the middle. Relax. And restack the spine. Let's do that to the other side. Up and over. Stretch, breath in. And reach forwards on that diagonal. Another big breath in. Soften the knees, swing round to the middle, just relax there for a moment. And restack. Now let's soften the knees and take a big stretch up. And exhale. Okay, thank you very much for joining me this morning. I hope you've enjoyed that. Those of you who found that there were certain things in there that were really, really relevant to you, that's your homework. Okay, so I'd like you to practice that. So if you are someone who jams down into the armpits and you feel it all here at the side, I want you to focus on trying to pull the shoulder blades down the back through that central column. So think of your back as having the sides and the middle, and I want you to just work the middle. See if you can get those shoulder blades moving up and down without squeezing into those armpits. If you're someone who has that forward head posture, rounded back, can you work on that chin retraction for me? Okay, pulling back, switching on the front of the throat. And if you're someone who tends to have that more arched lower back, maybe you could do a few of those tucks, just getting the abdominals all on board to help lengthen that lower back and give it a bit of space to move and some nourishment into that spine. So thank you very much for joining me this morning. Hope to see you all again soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.